Alright, welcome to Rebel High Command Cast, an Imperial Assault podcast for 2023 and beyond. This podcast is hosted by the IACommand YouTube channel and sponsored by listeners like you through Patreon. Thank you to everyone who sponsors the channel. If you want to help support Imperial Assault content in 2023, head over to patreon.com/IACommand and become a patron today. This is episode number 20. I am your host, TVboy, aka Noah, and I'm joined by my co-host, the Secondflock, aka Wesley. How you doing, Wesley?
Doing great. It's a fine and very stormy morning out here for us.
Nice. And well, we actually just got our first couple days of warm weather after a seemingly endless winter. So, it seems we've swapped weather.
Yep. Does it stay warm for long up there?
Usually it starts getting warm around March and it gets cold. Starts getting cold around September, October, but it's been cold and wet until just about 2 or 3 days ago. So everybody's outside and it's extremely crowded outdoors.
Well, great blessings for you guys. That's awesome. I can't wait for it to become like that once again here.
Alright, so our main topic for this podcast episode is going to be our early experiences with Season 8 after 1 week being out. So early experience and maybe some rules questions too that have come up around the cards. So first we're going to do community updates, so I'm going to cut to that.
Alright, so a big announcement is if you are playing in the Season 8 Playtest League or you still wanted to join, we are moving over from Challenge over to a new site called rollbetter.gg. I just made an announcement in Discord and Slack and tagged everybody. But basically what we need everyone to do is, if you are already playing in the Playtest League or you wanted to join, use the link in either in the video description here or that I posted into Slack and Discord to sign up on the Playtest League page for rollbetter.gg. We're gonna keep putting in people's scores for round 2 on Challenge. So if you're in round 2 of the Playtest League, go ahead and just enter your score normally in Challenge. We're gonna get all that manually inputted into rollbetter.gg, and then moving forward, we're gonna be in that, and that's gonna better allow us to manually edit matches. It's also gonna allow us to add people into the league midway through, which is what we said we would be doing. And it's also fully integrated with Discord, so it's gonna be a lot easier for people to find their opponents by looking at their Discord handle that's going to be displayed next to their whatever their rollbetter username is, so there's no confusion there. So that's going to make things a lot smoother. Also, if you are playing playtest games outside of the league, make sure to be uploading your Vassal logs, so log your games and upload them. Or if you didn't save a log, or if you're not even playing on Vassal, if you're like playing printed cards or whatever on Tabletop Simulator, there is a survey form you can fill out to input your lists, your opponent lists, the results, the mission you played on, and leave any feedback. We really appreciate people doing that if you don't have a log to upload. All of those can be found on the Playtest League article on the main website at ia-continuityproject.com. We really appreciate you guys submitting that data so we can analyze and look at what's being played and what's winning and how it's being played. It's all very helpful. And finally, if you're in the Portland, Oregon area, we're going to be having a tournament on May 6th, which is coming up this weekend. It's actually going to be an FFG tournament, so you don't have to print out any IACP cards. We're trying to kind of rebuild the community over here, starting off with just the base game. So come down to the Portland Game Store on May 6th. The tournament starts at noon. And there's actually going to be myself and another steering committee members coming down for that as well. So it'll be great to meet people in person. If you're able to come down, definitely come check us out. It's the Portland Game Store over on North Killingsworth Street. All right, back to the show.
All right, and we are back. So let's get into some comms chatter here where we're going to talk about some a listener email or comment on a previous podcast episode. If you want to have your question answered or comment read on the air, you can leave a comment on the YouTube videos, specifically the podcast episodes, but any of the YouTube videos, I will often pick from them, or you can send an email to iacommand01@gmail.com. So today's comment is going to be from Pwned, Pon3D, who's a recent new member to our community. It's been great having him, seeing him playing games online. And he posted on the previous podcast episode our Season 8 full set review. He's been tweaking some of my lists. He's been tweaking some of my lists since Boss got 1 point cheaper, and can confirm that 7 points is way easier to fit than 8. It really does feel like 6 and 7 are the cutoff point for pieces to be strong without stealing space from other figures. What do you think about that comment about 8 being kind of a cutoff point for pieces being able to fit into a list?
Yeah, I 100% agree. When I was doing the preview stuff for Bosk and saw that he had just dropped to 7, I actually considered just like putting together a list in Tabletop Admiral and using that to showcase like what an effect that made, because that 1 point feels like it just lets you bring in so much more. Sometimes it's the difference between bringing in a couple of like extra support units you didn't really need versus being able to bring another heavy hitter. And I do think that 8 point, we even talked about this in the Season 8 previews, is kind of that point where you're not a queen piece, but you need to be more than a knight piece, because you are kind of stealing away from potential other strong units in your list. Right, I think that's where we mentioned is that Cal Kestis had to be strong enough to do 1.5 attacks versus just 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about how like if you have 5 points of support in your list, then you could fit 5 7-point figures alongside that. So there's like mathematical tenet to it. If you have 5 7-point figures and you downgrade one of them to 6 and one of them to 5, you could fit another 3 points of support. A lot of lists like to have like 8 points of support in them. So once you go up to 8, you have to start cutting from the other combat figures in your list, and you don't get as much support on top of that. So
right. When you start bringing 8-point deployments, you maybe fit 3 to 4 strong attack deployments in your list. If you keep it around 7, you can fit 4 to 5 if you drop 1 or 2 of those to 6.
Yeah,
definitely how that feels.
Yep, exactly. So that seems to have helped with figures like Ahsoka, who was formerly 8, now 7. I think we've done that with a few other. I think Biv was 8 and went down to 7. Biv Bodrick. So
he also got a rework, so
well, his
pretty sure.
his rework was 8 points when it first came out, and then in season 5 he was one of the ones that got dropped by a point from 8 to 7. So
yeah, now we're doing the same thing with Varina.
Yeah, Varina too. I've wanted to try her out. She's on my list of lists to play.
Yeah, I think we could all foresee that with the way that you wrote about her so spectacularly as IACP's John Wick.
Oh, I didn't write that. That was Josh. So I'm glad you liked his John Wick article.
I did like his John Wick article. Well, we'll get into games we played soon, but we actually started a campaign yesterday, me and a few friends, and I almost picked Farina. In part because I kept thinking of her as John Wick.
Yeah. That's kind of how she is in the campaign.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, do we want to get into games we played?
Sure. I can go ahead and continue on. So I had a friend that I, sometimes have known since high school, and he's just starting to watch when I stream recently, and he goes, "Oh, what's this game?" And I tell him about Imperial Assault and everything, and he's like, "Oh, that sounds cool, and I have Tabletop Simulator, let's do it." And I have one other friend that was in my previous campaigns, and all three of us were kind of a friend group since high school, so we were like, yeah, let's do it, let's have a casual game. So we set up, and I set them on the core campaign, and we did that through Tabletop Simulator yesterday. And then what I did was I shared my second monitor screen, and I pulled up Imperial Commander 2. Because of my last experience playing as the Empire with friends, they don't like how good I am at the game. So we played together. We did what is it called? Aftermath? Like the first mission of the core campaign. And we left the app at regular difficulty, but surprisingly, we lost. Just barely. We had like 2 health left on the final terminal, but the AI spawned a Death Trooper and it ran up to the terminal, and then it had 2 blocks, and it had some bonus to weaken all of us. And so it was like a 2-block figure, and we're all weakened. And we're level 1. First mission of the campaign. We can maybe get 4 symbols on a dice if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And we had half a round to go. We just couldn't pull it out. But it was still a lot of fun, and the friends said, like, oh, this is really cool. Let's do it again.
Well, that's always a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to plan to continue that. We had a lot of fun. I went with Drakata, and it was really cool. A lot of her stuff seems really cool. I guess I've been playing a little more heavy weapons lately, because we'll talk about a skirmish game in a second here. And then my friends took, my one friend that has played the game before took Vinto, and was kind of like lukewarm on him, but liked his funny design, because he wasn't that huge of a Star Wars fan. He's like, oh, he's got a flappy mouth, that's cool. And then when he started pinging people early in the game, and like every attack he did an extra damage to the next stormtrooper, and he started killing 2 or 3 figures in some turns, he was like, oh, this guy's really cool. And then the other friend that was just getting introduced to it went with Diala, and that was a lot of fun. And then we decided to add a 4th, support character, our donkey mule, and we went with Mern.
Yep.
And she was there. She actually pulled quite a bit of weight, so that was fun. She came in clutch a couple times. Almost helped us win. Or almost got us the win. And now we have a punch dagger, and we spent all our money on that, so we're going to see where we go next. And then, so I've been getting into streaming over on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/thesecondflock, and I've done a couple streams where we go over the Season 8 content, but last week I was able to get a host online, one of my other friends, and we actually went through Tabletop Simulator, the skirmish mod, and played a Season 8 game live for everyone to watch. And if anyone's hearing this and is interested, give me a message over on the Second Flock at youtube.com or youtube.com/thesecondflock, or the Discord, still the Second Flock. If you would be interested in showing up live as either an opponent for me or an opponent for another mystery player, as I'm hoping to continue doing this throughout the playtesting season, streaming about once a week. But I had my friend look up a list. He just went to Tabletop Admiral and found one that he thought was cool. And it was Imperial Hunters with the Inquisitor, the new Second Sister, and a bunch of other hunters. And I went with a list focused on Rebel heavy weapons. So I basically did my own take on the Season 7 Sabador list by squeezing in both phase and orbital bombardment into the list. I know Bombardment's one of those cards that I think people have to consciously choose to play, since it is the highest cost skirmish upgrade in the game right now. And that game was quite a bit of fun. I thought that bringing Orbital Bombardment was kind of inefficient for the way I wanted to build my list. I even had a comment with someone saying, hey, you didn't put R2-D2 or 3PO in your list. You're making, or Heavy Fire. You're making some bold choices. I'm like, yeah, I had to make some bold choices. I needed to bring a 4-point skirmish upgrade and another figure of 4 points that I didn't want to attack for 3 rounds. So the game was going well, and I thought that being inefficient enough would make up for our skill gap, because he's a much more, I would say, less experienced in the game, but it still wound up becoming pretty one-sided. We got to round 3, and I thought I was going to do something really cool. I had Saw, who was holding the Orbital Bombardment, run out, and as part of Orbital Bombardment, you can make an attack. So I had Saw do an attack, charge 3 more tokens on Orbital Bombardment, and now my opponent has like 5 figures, half of them are at like 3 health or less, and I have 6 tokens on Orbital Bombardment. I'm like, great, cool. End of Saw's turn, I'm going to change of plans and I exhaust Kotun to ready Saw, and I'm like, yeah, now I'm gonna go again with Saw, and I'm going to, blow up the field. And that's when I played Strength in Numbers. And I'm like, yeah, I just finished activating Saw, but I readied him with Change of Plans. Now I'm going to Strengthen Numbers because Saw is 4 points. 4 plus 4 is 8. It's less than 12. I can Strengthen Numbers, and he's just going to instantly blow everything up. And that's when I realized that the word Another group is on Strength in Numbers, which I took to mean, like, even though it wasn't intended that there's a way you can chain your own activation twice, that word prohibits it just in case, So that happened as I realized it, and I was like, Saw's in the open, and I guess I can't play Strength in Numbers right now. So my opponent went, and he went and destroyed Saw in like one attack with his Grand Inquisitor, and it made me sad. But then I was able to play Final Stand on Baze, who was in range, and I did at least get some fun out of this because I had Baze make the attack. I think he killed my opponent's BT, his BT droid. And off of the BT kill, I was like, well, the Final Stand attack happens before Saw is defeated. And Saw has triggers like when you do an attack. So I was able to use Saw's ability to pitch a command card to do damage to people around him, and also Saw's other ability to get the weaken onto someone else. And I was like, well, at least I got to activate all of Saw's, fun tools as he was dying. That was Saw's parting shot right there because of the way it interacted with Final Stand.
It's true. It does work.
Yep.
And you would be able to use his abilities before the figure is defeated. Yeah, that totally works.
Yeah, so I thought that was really fun, and it made me feel a little less salty that I had ruined my own bombardment. Because then Saw died, and my opponent got 8 points right there, and I had him sitting in a corner 3 rounds for not much of anything. I'd also forgotten his own ability for most of the game too, so that didn't help. But by the end of round 3, it was 35-17, and we just kind of called it there. And hopefully I can get 2 opponents at the same time, and I can, focus on the production and commentary side of things, and not also be playing in the game at the same time. I think that would be a lot of fun to do a stream like that.
And then you can force them to put orbital bombardment in their lists.
Yes. Let's have the orbital mirror match. I'm sure we'll get great data that way.
You're going to play this card and you're going to like it.
Maybe I'll just have to keep trying. But man, Baze is strong. He might actually be worth dropping like a Rebel Sabador set to put in a few more support points that I feel like the list kind of needed.
Yeah, I started watching the stream and I didn't get to keep watching when Baze started doing his thing, so it'll be interesting to go back and watch that.
Yeah, I think I know I sent the playtest surveys and you got that. In the notes, I left a couple timestamps of where I think the interesting stuff with Season 8 figures happened.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
if
see,
you want
I
to
might have
reference
that
that and save some
open.
time on. Nice.
Yeah, I think I have it open right here. Let's see. Is it this one? No. I think you guys are the second response. Okay, here we go. Yeah, you said Baze is very strong, but not a problem, as opponent wasn't prepared for him.
Yeah.
You said Last Stand, I think that's Final Stand, was really strong, letting Baze attack, heal, play collateral damage to confirm a kill, and activate both of Saw's ability as Saw was dying. Second Sister died before doing anything. Orbital Bombardment almost went off with 6 tokens. And then you have like timestamps.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. The only downside to that game is Second Sister ran up and got shot. So we don't know how great she is.
Is that the only game you've played of Season 8 this week?
So far, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've been playing quite a bit more than I usually do. Somewhat in part to one of our newer players being on the same gaming time as me. So Sphinx and I have played a couple games this week because he plays late, like I like to play. So I played a game that was, and both of these games are up on the YouTube channel, so you guys can just go watch them there. But I played a game of Chewie and some other smugglers and technicians. So I had Chewie, Jared, Jin Odon, Cassian, Rebel Care Package, and I think one other figure that I can't remember. Versus Sphinx, who was playing the three Force Hunters, so Mara, Grand Inquisitor, and Second Sister. And then he also had Blaze, Thrawn, and Del Meeko, and Del Meeko had Vader's Finest. So that was kind of nutty. I think Vader's Finest and Del Meeko had not crossed paths during development. So wait, let me pull up my list builder. Here we go.
In playtesting.
Yeah, so I think not Zion's, Vader's Finest. Vader's Finest had a lot of different versions up until like the very end where we were voting on finalizing things. And so I don't know if that particular version ever got tested with Del Meeko. It was being tested with a lot of other stuff. So these two, and Del Meeko I think too has also went through a bit of a lot of revisions. So I wouldn't be surprised if they only existed together in these versions for a very short amount of time before they went out the door. So this version of Del Meeko that gets a free action off of special actions, and then Vader's Finest, which gives you a special action to focus, effectively means that he's pretty much auto-focused as a 6-point figure. So he's blue, blue, yellow, green. Also, he's also getting 2 extra movement points every time he attacks. That's just free on Vader's Finest. So you guys can watch that. But yeah, that is being identified as a bit of a problem, and I won't be surprised. I think we actually already agreed we're going to do this for round 2. I mean, this podcast is coming out on Wednesday, in the middle of week 2 of the testing league. But we were probably going to make an announcement that we don't want people to play Del and Vader's Finest together. It's just not going to be something that's going to be available in 8.1, so we don't want people to waste their time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some contention on Vader's Finest overall, but it might just be a Del Meeko problem.
Yeah, we definitely want to see it on stuff like Iden and Taro. Might be a problem there too. So far, we've only seen it on Del and on some generic figures. I'm going to be testing it on Jet Troopers as well, because it seems like it's really strong with them with the Jet's ability or flyby, being able to be focused and then add a blue. So you're doing green, green, blue, blue, and then you get to move 4 spaces after you attack. So you can go 4 spaces, attack, and then move 4 spaces back. It's very strong. Probably. I don't know yet. I'm going to test it out. So you guys can watch that game. The other thing that was noticeable was there was an interesting play with Second Sister to redraw Dark Energy to do an extra damage and push. And it almost killed Chewie, but he got lucky and had a evade on the roll to stop her surge for Pierce 3. So that was the only interesting thing I saw from Second Sister. He kept her back for most of the game, so she didn't get to use Saber Orbit.
Yeah, I think there aren't too many good targets for her redraw ability because it's limited by the cost. And, I think in Rebels there are more Force user cards we see. I think she has like Force Rush and Dark Energy are her best picks for that. Which is still good. Still a good ability.
Let's see. Yeah, she can redraw Dark Energy, Deflection, Force Rush, and Deadly Precision. So yeah, probably Force Rush, Dark Energy. He did use Deflection on me to kill my 1 health Jin Odon. I didn't see that one coming. But that was from attacking the Inquisitor. But that was a good inclusion, so you could redraw that. Okay, so my next game I played against Sphinx. I played Boba Fett and Super Commandos with Gar Saxon. And I played against a list that had 2 groups of Scout Troopers with Vader's Finest and an E-Web with Overwatch. And that list was a lot of fun. Boba and the Super Commandos are super fun. I just really enjoy that spending movement points, gameplay, and I actually have to like track it on Vassal just to help me keep track. Like when Boba Fett like double moves, and then you're like, okay, double move 5 spaces. Okay, now I'm gonna wrist cord that guy over here, and now I'm gonna flamethrower this group here. And how many do I have left? Okay, I have this many left, and I'll play opportunistic, and like this is a lot of fun. And then the Super Commandos are just basically mini Boba Fett's, So
yeah.
And the Scout Troopers were also very impressive. They were constantly focused thanks to Vader's Finest. And the gameplay loop that they presented of, okay, first attack will weaken you, and then because you're weakened, I get a reroll, and then the second attack I'll add a surge because you're already weakened, so I have a +1 surge and a reroll. Was impressive. I really liked it. I hadn't seen them in action yet. I had not been playtesting them in the development phase, so I think Derek came up.
And were they running Finest?
Yeah, they had Vader's Finest. So like I said, they were very often focused, very often able to move out of the way or away from the opponent, away from me after they attacked. And they hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
That one, Vader's Finest, felt a lot more balanced because the focus wasn't free. I mean, it was free for one of them on the first round, but after that, he really had to manage his action economy. Where, but what he would do often is he would put them into really dangerous space, normally exposed space, but because of camouflage, he wasn't as worried about them being attacked, and that way he could set up where his Scout Trooper had a really nice line of sight vector on the map and wouldn't have to choose between moving to get line of sight and focusing. So they would kind of just sit there and pepper me, and then use their movement to move into a better spot for the next turn from Vader's Finest attack.
Kind of sounds like General's Ranks has run for its money this season.
Yeah, I think so. And that card still has a ton of utility.
Oh
so
yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, nothing wrong.
I wouldn't see it replacing it.
Yeah, just Vader's Finest might be the new, like, the same tier for different lists.
It is hard to fit if you trying to add 2. I've noticed. It's like I can have officer.
2 of the Vader's Finest.
Yeah. It does. The cost does add up. I haven't seen it on heavies,
that's true.
But it seems like it'd be really good on them too, since it's free.
Yeah. On heavies, I bet it's insane.
And then I played a game against Morgan. So I played that same list of Boba Fett, Super Commandos, and Gar Saxon. The list also had Jabba, a Jawa Scavenger, and C-3PO. So 6 activations. And I had Smuggling Compartment. I was also trying to test out Choose a Side with Boba Fett.
Okay.
I never actually got to play it. The game against Sphinx, it got discarded by Thrawn. And then against Morgan, I just never saw it. Even with, well, he had a, so he was playing a Rogue One list that had Chopper. And so I chose not to put any figures on my terminal because I just didn't want to give up points to Chopper because he also had Saw. So he had, his list had, so all the Rogue One figures. So he had Cassian, Jyn Erso, Baze Malbus, and Chirrut. And then he had Hera and Chopper. And he had Saw. So he said that Hera and Chopper were in Rogue One, so justified.
Hera was in Rogue One?
Her name is mentioned.
Oh.
They call out for Captain Syndulla on the PA system at the Rebel base.
Oh, okay.
And the Ghost. The Ghost is in the Battle of Scarif, so it's assumed she's piloting it.
Oh, you could have thrown Leia in that list too.
But he didn't have Rebel Care Package, so he forgoed C-3PO and Gideon Argus. Yeah, and at first I was kind of like, I'm not sure if that's right. But then when we were playing, what ended up happening is he had so many power tokens going around from Cassian, Jyn Erso, and K2SO. I forgot K2SO. He's also Rogue One, right? So K2SO. So all of his attacks were like slightly modified, and then he had Hera adding damage as well. So they didn't feel as unfocused as most lists would without those focusers. And because he had so many figures, even after I killed 2 or 3 of them, it was like I still have like 3 figures I have to deal with that are really powerful. He had, like, I think he had ended up with Jyn Erso and K2SO and Saw still almost at full health. And I had killed Cassian and who else? Cassian and I had taken Hera out of the fight, and I had killed Chopper. Oh, and Baze. So I killed Cassian, Baze, and Chopper, and Hera was out of the fight, but I still felt like he had a very functional fighting force, and my force had been whittled down. So.
Yeah, because you said he brought Hera. Did he have R2?
No, he didn't have R2. He had Chopper.
Oh. So you just justified that Chopper would have been with Hera?
Chopper is actually in the Rogue One movie. You can see him.
I need to see that movie again. It's been too long.
He's got a little cameo.
Nice.
But it was surprisingly effective because Chopper, once you get to the end game, Chopper can actually move out and like mess people up with RAM. He was pulling my figures off the objectives, so I actually had to kill him. Yeah, I was telling the steering committee, and I have a hard. I guess I used the wrong. I don't know if I'm using the right comparison, but because for people who have not played during the Spectre Cell era and didn't play a lot against Spectre Cell, they just associate that list with being broken. But I said it was very similar to playing against Spectre Cell in the sense that Spectre Cell always had figures ready to replace the ones that died. Like, it never felt like Spectre Cell was running out of steam unless you like killed 5 of their 6, which is very difficult against them. So I was saying this Rogue One list kind of feels very Spectre Cell-ish, but it's not broken. It wasn't broken, just that like it was very good at the attrition game. And I made some mistakes playing against it where I should have prioritized cheaper, lower health figures, because I have a lot of chip damage in my list with the rockets and the flamethrower. I had Headhunter in my list too, I should have mentioned, on Boba. So I was reducing.
Yeah, I think because. Yeah, you talked about your Boba Headhunter in the Vassal log you did for this.
Yeah.
I think it must have been versus the Web Scouts, but there was one round where you did your flamethrower against Iden, and you hit the droid too, and you're like, I don't care about the droid. That's going to be my headhunter target.
Yeah, I think that was correct because I didn't care about the droid. But in this game, I was it was like Boba split off from the main group because he tried to flank me. This was on Chopper Base, so he tried to flank me up the side of the map. So I sent Boba to go weaken his 3 figures that were up there, which was Saw, Cassian, and K2. And Boba was pretty much able to hold them off by himself with the weaken and his tokens. And then I had the Super Commandos and Gar down by the door. And I actually got a pretty good turn off where on round 2, he had put all the other figures up against the door, including Baze and Chirrut. And what did I do? He activated Cassian to shoot, and instead of opening his door, so I used worth every credit to have a Super Commando be able to open the door and attack. And then the other Super Commando came down and did a rocket and an attack, and they were both focused. We're looking at Super Commandos with focus because they are very strong. I don't know if you've seen them, other than my...
Yeah, just your logs.
Yeah.
Definitely want to see some more of them, though.
Yeah, there's still some ongoing debate about Super Commandos and how strong they are when they're focused, because they're also hunters too. So, and they have that rocket to add that blue dive worth of damage, which doesn't always convert into damage, because if you get a surge, you don't do any damage with that. But I was able to...
Yeah, I actually wonder how a list would do. Like, it's an Empire list that would use Jets and Super Commandos, but you don't bring Gar Saxon. You just bring more Super Commandos.
That's kind of interesting. I feel like you're overloaded at that point on Jets. Like, diminishing return starts to kick in.
Is it diminishing returns, or is it just more attacks, more activations, and more things your opponent has to deal with?
Yeah, sometimes it's better to make your attacks stronger.
That's what Vader's Finest is for.
So I've seen them. I've seen them played in Empire. I've play tested them in Empire myself before release, and I've now seen. We saw John versus Blade in the playtest league. He played them in an Empire. I think Blade was playing them in his Jets list. The feeling I've gotten so far is that Super Commandos are better in Scum, and Jet Troopers are better in Empire. I mean, I guess you can only play them in Empire, but
yeah.
Because in Scum you get focus, and they're just so good with focus. And
yeah,
they don't need the Zillow as much. Now I find Gar to be both good in both, because he likes to focus in Scum, and he likes Zillow to go along with Combat Shield in Empire. Honestly, that's why he has 8 health instead of 9. People commented that his health is very low. It's mostly because of the concern about how he does in Empire with Zillow Technique and Combat Shield. And he has easy access to block tokens either from extra armor or Thrawn there.
Yeah, I remember a few times looking at the Gar and Super Commandos as the spoilers were coming out, and I was like, wait a minute, so what's Empire getting, or what's Scum getting this season?
Oh, yeah, there's Scum.
Yep. Technically.
They were Scum before they were Empire.
Yeah.
Well, I think Gar works in Empire lists just as well.
I thought you were saying he works better in Empire lists because he has the Zillow.
Oh, I was saying he's equally as good. But he's definitely way more durable in Empire. And that's why he was 8, because I was concerned about him being 9 health in Empire with Zillow and Combat Shield. Because if you think about it, that's, what is that, 2 blocks, and an evade, and no pierce. It's hard to 2-shot him in an Empire list with 9 health.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
I just remember though, and I think it was your game versus Sphinx with the UM Scouts. I just remember like you kept talking about how you're using Boba with the commandos and how good Boba could be if you played him right. And I was like starting to get on board with maybe trying out Boba sometime. And then I saw you roll an attack that was like two buttholes in a single surge. I was like, wait, he doesn't even have a reroll for this?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to try Boba.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the quote unquote problem with Boba. That's his weakness, right? Is his attack is not
Yeah.
super impressive for a 13-point figure.
Yeah.
So most of his strength comes from he's super hard to kill and he can weaken everything around him. Plus his defense
yeah,
bonuses.
He does have the weekend.
The weekend off the flamethrower is so important. Like I will always, if I have to, a lot of times if I have to choose between flamethrowering two figures and attacking one figure, I will go with the flamethrower.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. So the game against Morgan should be going up probably before this episode, so hopefully you guys have checked that one out.
Yeah, great. And I think I need to go back and give your other games another watch. I podcasted them, but I think I could use another closer look at these.
Oh, yeah. And I'll probably put out some other game logs. I got to watch a game live, which was fun. Apparently, if you go into Discord when two people are playing, they can stream the game for you. So
Yep.
I just popped in.
Yep.
I was at work, about to leave, and I popped into a Discord group channel that had John and Blade playing their playtest game, and I was gonna watch it for a little bit on Vassal, and then John started streaming. I guess he clicked the streaming button, or I don't know how that works. I've never done that, and so I could actually see the Vassal map, not the dice, but the map on my phone. And I was like, "Oh, this is sweet." So I went to the gym and I watched them play while I was like on the Stairmaster, and that was pretty fun.
Nice. Nice.
The connection was kind of
Yeah,
in and out, but that was fun to watch them play.
Yeah.
Watch them play live and hear them talking as they played.
That's cool. That's cool to discover that kind of thing. Yeah. Sharing screen is something I use with my friends a lot on Discord. You just like we could even do it now, but on a computer you just there's a button next to where it says voice connected and it's share your screen.
Yeah, so I really appreciate him doing that.
Yeah, it's really
all right. Let's move into our rules question topic, and then we'll get into our main topic here, which we kind of already started with our gameplay discussion. But
Yep.
so the rules question I picked out was, and this is a non-season 8, since we'll be talking about season 8 stuff later. Can Kane Somos choose himself to attack with firing squad as one of the attacking troopers? And the answer is no, and I should pull up his card here while we're talking about him. The reason is that firing squad says choose 2 adjacent troopers, and I'm going to pull up the original card. It says choose up to 2 adjacent friendly troopers. Each of those troopers may interrupt or form an attack targeting the same figure. So the rule in IA is that a figure cannot be adjacent to itself. So Kane cannot be an adjacent figure to himself to choose. So, and then you had written here about I think advanced comm systems.
Yeah, so I think that was the other part of the guy's original question, which I saw someone else responded to later to clear up. But it was like, well, if you bring Kane Somos, you're often going to bring advanced comm systems because that extends the range to 3. And then I think part of the question was, well, why doesn't it work with advanced comm systems? And the answer there is that advanced comm system changes abilities on your deployment card that choose or affect adjacent friendly figures or figures within 2 spaces. Kane Somos' case being adjacent friendly figures. Changes those abilities so that they can choose or affect other friendly figures within 3 spaces instead. And the key word here is that they can choose or affect other friendly figures. And that other is always referring to other than the actual figure performing the ability.
Yep. And then there's a question here about Callus.
Yeah, so just something I noticed and had kind of a noodly wordy question here is that when I look at Callus's Hunt Descent, his ability. I know that people use advanced comm systems on Callus to extend Hunt Descent to basically range 3. But I noticed that it says Hunt Descent is when your opponent plays a command card, you may distribute 2 power token damage among friendly figures within one space. But when you look at advanced comm systems, it only affects abilities that affect friendly figures within 2 spaces or abilities that affect adjacent friendly figures. And I guess my question is, how does it affect Hunt Descent when the wording on Hunt Descent is that it affects friendly figures within one space? Because that's kind of neither of those two qualifiers for ACS.
Yeah, so the way that works is within one space is within 2 spaces. So
Okay.
advanced comm systems will affect anything that is affecting a friendly figure within 2 spaces, within a 2-space radius. Callus ability affects friendly figures within a 1-space radius, that is within 2 spaces. So it extends that out to within 3 spaces. Because you notice it doesn't say, it says adjacent, but it doesn't necessarily say, or what was I saying? Sorry. Yeah, it's just because it's within 2 spaces, within 1 space is part of that.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. And then another little tack on here is that if you want to hunt Descent, can you hunt Descent and give 1 token to Callus using his original range and another token with the range 2 or 3 granted by advanced comp systems?
Yes, you can. Advanced comm systems is
nice.
is on a case by case basis. You can choose to apply it as you want. So
nice.
Yeah, you can definitely distribute 1 to himself and then 1 to a figure within 3 spaces.
Cool. So it works exactly like it sounds like it should when you don't dissect it. And then when you dissect it, it still works.
Yep.
Perfect.
Alright.
Okay, well that was it. Just wanted to add that little bit of noodliness.
Alright, so should we get into our main topic then?
Yep. Let's jump in.
Alright, so main topic is Season 8. So we've already kind of talked about our experiences in our gameplay discussion. Do we want to talk about the discussion we've seen so far, or maybe some of these lists, if we want to go over that? Maybe highlights?
Yeah, let's... We could talk about... Let's talk about discussion that we've seen.
Yeah, I think this is a good chance to sort of inform folks who aren't deep into like the Discord chat or the Slack, like what people are talking about about the new season.
Now, do you think that I'll leave this to you. Do you think we should do the FAQs separate at the end, or do that during the discussion? Because I saw you wrote some FAQ lists down.
Yeah, we don't have to go through all these. This is just like some of the FAQs I've been gathering for the document, the FAQ document. I just wanted to write them here for my reference. Now let's go. We'll integrate that into it.
Great, because I was thinking we could go down the list of Season 8 card list that you have here.
Sure.
Alright, so the first one is Technician Training, and I know there's been a lot of discussion on that one on the Discord.
Yeah.
So, do you want to lead with that?
Oh, yeah, I made like a big post about this, because there have been questions of people like, why is this a skirmish upgrade? Like, why isn't this just a rules upgrade to these figures? And the answer to that is that, well, I made my post in Discord, but the TLDR was that making it a skirmish upgrade has some big benefits, one of which is that it shows up in the deployment card section of list builders, so it's easy to find that way, and we don't have to like make special accommodations with folks that create the list builders or Vassal. It's got built-in rules that tell you how it works. So it's like, it's a skirmish upgrade and it costs 0. You put it in your list. It's not, it's not something new that people have to figure out, or that we have to write a paragraph about being like, okay, this is a reference card. You should print it out, put it next to your deployment cards, reference it while you're playing, etc., etc. It just says it right there. Skirmish upgrade, 0 points. That's what it does. And then the question of like, well, what if? So if it has an effect even when it's not in your list, like what's the point? And the reason we did that was we just didn't want people to have the feel bad of when you forget to put advanced comm systems or heroic effort in your list. Like that sucks, but it happens. I've seen it. I've seen people who don't put those cards in their list, so you just forget. It would have a much bigger effect on your list building if you put a bunch of technician cards in your list in your deck, and then you can't use them with most of your figures because you forgot to put technician training in. So we just wanted to be forgiving on that front of like, don't worry if you forget to put it in, you'll still be able to play your technician cards the way you were supposed to. And so that's why we were forgiving on that. And maybe we shouldn't be. I don't know. That's what I was thinking as I was reading. Like, well, maybe we should just make it so you have to. But yeah,
I had a thought of two. So, well, one reason I guess I don't like the idea that you would have to bring it is that you also have those separate versions of the deployment cards.
Yeah.
But they're not like labeled IACP cards. So then it feels like it'd be all kinds of messy if you guys did that. I think it's simple to just say they're technicians now, and that's the message we want to get across. And then this is technician training itself is just kind of a reference card, but it is technically a skirmish upgrade.
Yeah, the other reason is this is how FFG would have most likely done this if they had implemented it through the game. They don't really errata cards like this, and when they do positive erratas, like so not nerfs, they would normally print a card that for people to like to put in a box to sell to people. So this fits with the aesthetic of the game. And then people were concerned about like, well, wouldn't this limit future design if you want to design a card that like can exhaust other deployment cards as a cost, or that can deplete an opponent's deployment cards? Like that would be broken if this could be depleted and all of a sudden your technicians are not technicians anymore. And the answer to that is like that is very easy to design around. We already have multiple 0-point skirmish upgrades in the game that would be very problematic if something was designed like that. Depleting your opponent's deployment cards is just not something we'd ever go for. It's too disruptive to the game. To a lot of skirmish upgrades, our lists are completely built around them and having access to them, and being able to just pinpoint destroy that would be so disruptive and have almost no counterplay. So,
I mean, like we've said before, Empire is basically balanced around Zillow existing.
Yep, and then there's creature lists that are completely balanced around Beast Tamer. There's vehicle lists that are completely balanced around Imperial retrofitting. There's a lot of lists are just functionally designed around skirmish upgrades because they are semi-sacred in the game. So that's why I didn't feel like there was a problem with that. You can easily design those cards too and have them not touch technician training.
Yeah. Do you think it would be a simple solution to also add stuff about technicians to the IACP rule document?
Yeah, you probably will.
Kind of like where you put keywords and stuff, and maybe it also references this card.
I'm kind of gonna have to do that anyway. So
yeah, I think that would solve a lot of problems. Like that just makes it global. It is what happens, and here's your reminder card that you should bring.
Yep. Okay. I'm on a bit of
Cool.
a time table here, so I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna go through the cards that
Yeah.
I've actually seen. So like I've actually not been able to get
Okay.
all in a day's work to happen yet. I'm still trying to get that working.
Uh,
Just not been able to draw it or keep it in my hand. Uh,
well, you did have a question for it, right? You
uh,
want to clear the
yeah.
air
Well,
here?
it does work with like free special actions. So Chewy, like Chewy Slam is a free special action, and what's the other one?
All of Delmico,
Huh?
repair,
Oh yeah,
repair,
repair.
slam, and just Delmico's efficiency in general.
Yep. So that still works.
Yeah. So all of those still let you play all in a day's work or to the limit, because that's a similar worded command card. Okay, and then go ahead and move on. I know we spent a lot of time with technician training, but I think these other ones aren't going to be as long.
Personal energy shield's been great. Um, been using. I got to use that with Chewbacca. I guess we were going to talk about the discussion. So let me go down the list here and see what we were talking about. There was some discussion about. Or no, I guess not. Set the charge. Oh, supercharge. There was some confusion about that card. But just to clarify, with supercharge, that's the one that's 1 point, technician only, perform an attack, and you add yellow dice until there's 4 dice total, and then you suffer strain equal to the surges rolled. Um, the way it works is it's played before you attack as a special action, and then once you go to roll your dice, that's when you add the yellow dice. So that happens after all all other effects that would add dice to the attack, which include focus, stuff like tools for the job. That will
Mm-hmm.
all have already been played when you get to the point where before rolling dice, add yellow dice to the attack pool. So that's immediately before rolling dice.
Yep, they designed this one to add those yellow dice at the last possible potential second, so that you cannot go above 4.
Right. That is correct. Let's see. Supercharge, disable, double or nothing. Um,
I don't know that I've seen some lists build like with double or nothing, and it looks like people just throw this in as it already seems like it's a staple. I haven't seen anyone use it, but I've seen lists build it, and it's just kind of they just kind of throw it in whenever they have smugglers.
I think I used it with Chewy to reroll a red die that had a single damage on it, and I got a red die that had 2 damage on it. I think it is.
It's
I think it's
something.
strictly better than tools. Like I would run this over tools every time because it's
Mm-hmm.
it's effectively heightened reflexes.
Yeah, it's the smuggler's heightened reflexes.
And then other than that, it's like you can get +1 damage, or you can re-roll a good roll to get a even bigger roll. So it's very flexible. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth it. Let's see. Double nothing. Elusive. So this one's confusing. It's gonna be in this FAQ. I don't think there's been a lot of talk about it online, but basically,
I played it in that game
uh
I
huh.
did. So I guess I didn't mention it in the notes, but elusive. I used it to save Rebel Salvador. That was fun.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty much just like parry for white dice figures. That's how it's felt to me. Which is
Yeah.
pretty good. But the confusion here is we didn't. I don't think we worded this correctly, but this is how it's worded right now. Is you don't actually have to choose a defense die if there is none. If there are none, um, as long as there's an attack die to choose, you can choose the attack die, and then if there's no defense dice results to choose, then you end up removing the attack dice results for free. So if they element of
Yep.
surprise away your dice, then you can just basically remove one of their attack die results if you have no defense dice to choose from. Um, sim- Similarly,
Okay.
if they heightened reflexes your defense dice results, you can choose. You can still choose that defense die because it's still there. And even though it has no results, you would remove all symbols.
But the intent is that it works even if there's no die to begin with to remove.
I don't know what the intent was with this. I don't know if that's the actual intent, but the person who designed it said that's how it works right now. So
Okay.
that's I guess that's yes, that is the intent since that's how it's going to work in the FAQ, at least for 8.0.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. And then if that changes, so be it.
There was some talk.
Either way, I think I was gonna say I used elusive. I think my opponent had like a red die with 2 damages, and I had a white die that rolled a blank. I was like, well, let's get rid of my 0 results and your 2 results, and now I live.
Right. Yeah, this is.
So that was fun.
It was templated after the other card, Feint. And the problem was that with Feint, if you ever get to a point where you don't have any attack dice in the pool, like you're not your attack's not doing anything anyway. So it obviously it changes once you go to defense because you have the attack will do something if there's no defense dice. So I think we probably needed a. I don't know. I don't want to say we need a different templating because it might stay this way. It just depends. I think it's a little bit unintuitive right now the way it works. So, field promotion. There was a question about this one and how it affects cards that affect your deployment cost. So, like change of plans. And currently, so we have to dig into the rules on this one. Your figure cost is equal to your deployment cost. But it's a one-way reference. So your figure cost references your deployment cost. Your deployment cost is this is for single figure groups, of which all leaders are there's no multi-figure group leaders currently, because that would be broken with new orders. So it's a one-way reference where your deployment cost, your figure cost is equal to your deployment cost. So in this case, if you play field promotion, your figure cost will increase by 2. That won't increase your deployment cost because your deployment cost is not based on your figure cost. It's the other way around. So let's say that Gideon Argus plays field promotion. His figure cost will go from 3 to 5, but his deployment cost will stay at 3. And that's for any card that references deployment costs, which is strength in numbers and change of plans. They will not reference the increased figure cost. They will reference the printed deployment cost.
Okay. That sounds like it needs an FAQ.
Yeah, it'll be in the FAQ.
Great. I get it now, but I'm definitely going to forget which way it is meant to be later on.
That might also be changing because I think the intuitive result would be that would affect strength in numbers and change of plans. So let's see. The next one is, I'm just going down the list. Oh, just business. People were asking about that one. What happens when you stack professional? I think currently we came to the decision that professional is redundant when stacked.
So it doesn't do anything.
So if your figure already has professional and then gains professional from this, it's still just one reroll.
So I take it you haven't really had a chance to play this with all of your use of the super commandos?
I have not used it in my super commando list, mostly because I've been including choose a side, which is 3 points. Eats up a lot of space in the deck. We'll talk about that one because I think Herbie just made a post about choose a side.
Well, also your super commandos have professional, so there's like not as much benefit to using that in that list.
Right. Although Bobo would love a reroll, but yeah, it's not great.
Hey, Saxon Nexus would love it.
Yeah, Nexus still like it. Okay. Let's see. So we talked about bays and final stand. Those are good. Turret is interesting. Let's see. Turret Imwe. Apparently he's missing a colon. Yeah, oops. I'll fix that. So his ability, I won with the Force, is interesting because it's the same timing window as Get Behind Me. So apparently if you target Turret and he's next to an opponent's figure, he can deal the damage and apply -1 damage to the attack, and then you can have another Guardian, play Get Behind Me to take the attack for him, and there still will have -1 damage applied to the attack results. So that's fun.
Huh. That is fun.
I found that when I played against Turret, I just never attacked him. I just didn't want to trigger that because he would stick next to one of my figures every time.
Has anyone made the Deflection Jedi with turret list yet?
No. I don't. Well, actually, I think so. Actually, let's see. I saw him being played in one Jedi list. Let's see. Turret and Yoda. This was played by Mark versus Tuka. We have Turret, Yoda, Mara Jade, Kanan, Baze, and Cal. I mean, I don't see well, he can't play Deflection. He doesn't Get Behind Me here. Because Deflection's
right. Well, sure, he can't play Deflection, but I mean, in a list where you have Yoda and Luke pinging damage for getting attacked, I think, he might be a good addition to that kind of a list.
Yeah. So I've noticed he just tends to stick around because he's not a very appealing attack target.
Yeah. People don't want to hit him.
Let's see. Moving through. Cal Kestis. So I think this came up during spoiler season, but the question was, if the opponent's down to just one activation and you hit them with Force Slow, what happens? And of course, since they can't activate that figure during their next opportunity to resolve an activation, they effectively are forced to pass. It's not an actual pass as defined in the rules, but it's a unable to activate. So they don't activate anything. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that the phase ends, or that like you can somehow skip the whole round, because the activation phase doesn't end until all deployment cards have been exhausted.
Yeah, so well, yeah. So even if you had 0 deployments and they had the 1 and you hit them with the Force Slow, they would basically pass and then it'd go back to them and they would still finish their one.
Yeah, like for example, the only way this would really happen is, let's say you're down to just Cal Kestis and like Darth Vader, and those are the only 2 figures on the board, and
your opponent has the Darth
and Cal
Vader.
Kestis player plays Take Initiative, and they exhaust Cal, right, as their only ready figure, their only ready deployment card, and then they Force Slow Vader, so Cal has initiative now, and then can't activate anything, and then Vader can't activate either, right? So now what happens? Well, it will go back to the Cal Kestis player. They cannot activate anything. They don't have any eligible deployments to activate. Goes back to the Vader player. Now, because it's not their next opportunity to resolve after Force Slow resolved, they can now activate Vader.
Yep.
So we tried to word that one so it didn't create like an endless loop of getting stuck in that. So hopefully that is clear. I haven't seen Saska, and I haven't seen much discussion, but I have a list where I want to play her in, so we'll see.
I want to play Saska too. several lists.
Let's see. Is
Would
she
be
even
cool
played
with
by
her.
anybody? Nobody's used her yet that I've seen, so.
That's so unfortunate. She looks so cool
Yeah.
now. I wouldn't listen. It's been 1 week. I wouldn't blame, this. I would blame the fact that you guys pumped out technically like 50 cards this
Yeah,
season,
so.
but really 35. Just give it a couple more weeks. We'll see Sasuke. She's coming.
I don't have any data on Verena either, but I've heard people saying she is easier to fit into lists now. We talked.
Same comment we saw on
Yeah.
Bosk.
We talked about Del Mico already. That is likely going to lead to some kind of change with him and Vader's Finest. We're not sure what that is yet. Most common suggestion has been to remove the ability to put it on unique figures. So we want to see how that works with how it works with Iden and Taro and some other unique figures before we do that. Because if we're cutting out, we might just be able to change Del instead, so he's not as broken with it.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that goes. I think there was some discussion about support specialist, his command card. It was like, let's see, choose droid, technician, or trooper. You can use it to technically give him an extra action with expertise.
Oh yeah.
Because you can choose himself, and then it's a special action, so you get a free action on top. So you can get 3 actions on Del Mico with this card. It's basically 2 points for a free action, but it can't be a second attack action. So.
Wait. They interrupt to perform an action. Yeah, and it's free to use it once per activation. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, that was the other thing somebody came up with was have Mara Jade use this on Del Mico.
Yeah.
But you don't get as much value because Mara Jade doesn't have expertise. Let's see. Vader's Finest, everybody's been talking about. Let's talk about it for a second. We kind of talked about it a lot during the first part of the show.
I think it's weird how like you guys are trying to find out how much you might need to rein this in. But what like it's like this is based on an original FFG card, and you guys are gonna wind up reining it in, and it's gonna be like it's gonna get to this point where there's upsides to both versions of the card. Not that the original is very playable, but like already your focus is once per game per round, or once per group per round. Whereas the original is like, yeah, you could do this on all 3 figures if you want. It just takes their 2 full actions to do.
Yeah, and that's pretty prohibitive. Like, not being able to even move your figures out of the deployment zone round 1 to get that focus is tough.
Like I said, it's not like the original Vader's Finest is suddenly going to be playable or anything, but I find it funny that the way we had to upgrade this, and then we have to start reining it in because upgrading it was actually too strong.
Yeah, and I like it's not like we're gonna go put it back to 2 points or anything. That's just too high for an attachment.
Yeah. I would wonder if you made it 2 special actions, but also gave them 2 movement points. If that would make it, I don't know how that would make it. It would not make it. It would make it niche, but it might still be playable.
Yeah, the problem is that then you can only focus every other turn, or you can't really focus after the first turn because then you don't get to attack. So I think we talked about that too, being a possibility. But the idea is to try and keep getting that focus at a heavy action cost. And you can't really do that if you want to keep attacking. So Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we're just gonna keep testing it, seeing what's broken with it, what's fine, and then update it as needed to so it doesn't interact with the problematic cards.
What if so I know one thing you talk about is, hey, maybe we're going to make it so it doesn't work on single figure groups, and so you kind of want to see how it works on tarot or Iden, which makes sense. But if you wind up just needing to change Del Miko, can you just make it so that he cannot have an attachment?
That's interesting. I don't know if we would want to do that. We would probably just make a change to expertise if we change something on Del Miko.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just don't see how you're going to change expertise without, you know, kind of taking away that whole ability.
It's possible. There's ways to do it. I don't know if I want to spoil it. I mean, we haven't changed it yet.
Yeah, we can.
But
Gotcha.
I've got ideas.
Sounds like you guys already got that one cooking.
Yeah, there's ways you can. There's ways to. I'll just say there's ways to implement like half actions. You don't need just all full actions. We've done it in the past with other cards.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Gar. So let's talk. Well,
Gar?
so Gar's Saxon.
Skipping down the list.
Yeah. What's been our What's the discussion been like on Gar? I haven't seen much.
You haven't seen much? I think he's just cool. I think, I saw him in your list. I think other people are excited to take him and use him. I, at first, was underwhelmed with the choose a side of, like, getting the personal combat shields. I was like, oh, just more defense for a round. But I think that's just because I wanted to do all the damage. So I was excited to think about taking him in an Empire list. But I think after seeing you use him in... You haven't used Choose a Side yet, but it sounds like all of your defense also getting personal combat shield would kind of be insane.
So
I think...
Yeah, that was the thought with that. I mean, mostly it was choose a side that was costed for the flamethrower. Like, just the concept of a bunch of jet troopers or probe droids suddenly all being able to use flamethrower. It was like, we should cost this at 3 and then see how it does. Because we worked for a long time on this, figuring out what this card was supposed to do. So it came all together kind of late in development, where we finally had a version that we liked. But Herbie made a post, and we kind of were coming to the same conclusion right around the same time, right before this post today that he just made, that it's not quite worth its points. I think it's been me playing and getting fuel upgrade very many times, and realizing that in Scum, Choose a Side is pretty much just a bad fuel upgrade. Because what you're doing is you're giving everything +1 evade, but only when they spend a block token. Whereas you look at fuel upgrade, it gives you +1 evade on all of your defense, and a +1 speed. So,
yeah,
I think that one's probably going to be getting changed. I still need to see how the flamethrower thing works. It's probably not worth 3. It's been pointed out that like you're probably going to be giving up attacks, some number of attacks to use that flamethrower on your figures. So like if you have to give them an attack with a jet to flamethrower, it's also not weakening, so it's not like the best flamethrower. So I would expect the Choose a Side will come down. I've actually realized my list has been compromised by it, having it in my command deck. I could have had much stronger cards in my command deck instead of that, so I'm going to be starting to test without it until we figure out how we want to change it.
See, only one match with Gar in Empire, but 4 in Scum.
Yeah.
But he's not winning in Scum. Very
Yeah,
much.
I would not. I'm not looking at the win rates right now because we only have 9 games. So
True. Yeah.
right now it's all qualitative data. It's just like what's happening in the
Yeah.
games, how are things playing out, which is similar to what our data looks like internally. So it's gonna be close, right? I mean, we've already gotten more games played of season 8 in this first week than we've got when we had played in like 2 or 3 weeks as a steering committee. So more people, more time. Something I've heard though is like Airborne Commander is very swingy. It can either be feast or famine. In all my games with Gar, I have not triggered it once, other than to gain a block token, because it's always been an overkill. But I have heard that some people have triggered it where they were basically adding +2 damage on top of their like Super Commando's attack, and it was very powerful. So
You said Airborne
yeah,
Commander?
that's Gar Saxon's ability to share his surge abilities.
Oh, right. Sorry, I kind of got lost there. And you said that I'm sorry, I missed how you said
It's been very
performing.
swingy, as in like either feast or I said feast or famine. It's either like it doesn't matter
Yeah.
the whole game, or it like adds an insane amount of damage to 1 or 2 attacks to get a kill. So like I've played him.
Because you do. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I've played him like 4 times now, and I've not used it ever to add damage.
Yeah, I think the issue with a lot of these Gar abilities is between this and Choose a Side, is that you kind of need things to get the benefit of these things. So to get a benefit of Airborne Commander, you need not only to have surges, but you need to oversurge. And to get benefit from Personal Combat Shield, you need, or at least from Choose a Side Personal Combat Shield, you need to have block tokens.
Yep.
Which you can get from Gar, but to get that, you also need to have enough surges to get the block tokens.
Yep. And then
So I can see how it's swinging.
yeah. And then the Super Commandos have been very strong, at least with focus, as I mentioned. There's definitely some debate going on because we've been like comparing them to weak ways, and from the math I've seen that's been done, even if you a jetpack, like a Super Commando plus a jetpack rocket, is the same as a hidden weak way attack in terms of damage. But I think they get
And does that account for the professional?
yeah, because they both have a reroll. Weak ways have a reroll.
Okay.
Weak ways actually have a better reroll,
sure.
but that balances out. I don't remember what it was with their focus, but it seems like they are really strong when you focus them. Those have been really good, and a ton of fun using those movement abilities. Let's see.
I wonder if in a scum list, Mern would be worth bringing if you're gonna like do Super Commandos Gar, and then hidden for extra surges to get off Gar's ability more often.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Just a thought.
You could temporary alliance them in. And then Queel. I don't think we've seen Queel yet.
Yeah.
No, he's not in there. I don't have all the playtest games back yet. Logs. I'm missing maybe 3 or 4. So
I can say I personally haven't come up with a list where I would bring Queel yet, and I don't know how much, like, he seems really cool and fun. I don't know how many people are actually thinking about bringing him at the moment. I don't know if you've seen any talk.
Not really. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest yet. He's a bit of a novelty figure, but I think you put him in with Maul and you'll get some good results.
Oh, that might be true.
Or Bosk.
Yeah. I guess the thing with Queel is, like, I thought about like, oh, he one of the issues in my Scum Force user list is getting
Yep.
people in, right? And Queel could help with that and then be like a shield for them. But then I thought, okay, well, he's 4 points. Is that worth dropping Dr. Afra? Or like, what do I take out to put that in that list?
I think it might be.
It'd be worth trying, but Afra also does a lot. That might be worth trying. Scum Force users plus Queel, Season 8.
Yep.
Get Maul, Terran, Mara, all closer.
Alright, and then we've seen Bosk get some play. And then...
Nice.
What was the other one? Oh, Nexu. I actually haven't seen the Nexu directly yet. I haven't reviewed the game logs I have with them, but we have gotten some games with them. Let's see. We had Tuka playing a double Nexu list, and he won his playtest game with that. So it's 2 Elite Nexu. So they're 5 points now. He had R2D2, Greedo, BT, Hondo, 3PO, Vinto, Elite Jawa, Beast Tamer, and Extra Armor. So no Gar Saxon there. Let's see. Nexu. There's one more. Oh, here's one with Gar Saxon. This was Stephanie and Brandon's at-home list. She played Gar Saxon, Super Commandos, Nexu, Jabba, Dr. Afra, BT, 000. Oh, nice. She's got the full package. Black Market, Extra Armor, Feeding Frenzy. Uh-oh, is there no Beast Tamer here? 13, 19, 24, 28, 32, 36, 39. No, there should be Beast Tamer. There's only 39 points here, so I think she just missed it. Or I missed it. I'm going to add that in there. And she lost, but only by 38 to 42 points against the Rogue One list, Brendan's Rogue One list, which is similar to Morgan's, but he's running Pathfinders instead of Hera.
Yeah. What's interesting, going back to Gar, is, and kind of with the Nexus, because they're mobile, I'm not seeing Cad Bane in any of the Gar lists, which is something I expected to see.
I think we did have one.
I guess. Oh, is Gar not a hunter?
No, he's not a hunter.
Oh my gosh! Just like the Purge Commandos from Season 7.
The Purge Troopers are hunters.
Oh no, they're not brawlers. Yeah, the Commander is not a brawler.
Somebody said that.
Just
somebody said that he's not a hunter because of the trait limit, because he needed to be a trooper, a leader, and a vehicle. I didn't realize that was the case. I thought he just wasn't a hunter because he's more of a like troop leader. Like he doesn't go out and bounty hunt people. Mm-hmm. He's like a leader. He's just a commander. So I am totally fine with him not being a hunter thematically. I'm also kind of fine with it gameplay wise because he hits really hard. He really doesn't need the help.
True. I wasn't thinking about his ability to use command cards, but I was thinking like Cad Bane would be really cool if he could, move Gar to safety.
Oh, yeah, he can't do that. Yeah, he's not part of the...
Because Cad's one of the other mobile figures. He's a hunter. The Super Commandos are hunters. Even without Gar being a hunter, I'm surprised I haven't seen Cad run with Super Commandos.
So John did against
Seems like a
Blade.
great synergy.
I have that list here. That was actually a Super Commando mirror match, but it was Super Commandos in Empire versus Super Commandos in Mercenaries. That was actually a tie. They had a drawn score, but one person had more kill points. I'm guessing Celebration got played in that game. So Bosk, it was Boss, Super Commandos, an Elite Claudite, Jabba, Cad Bane, Dr. Afra, Bib Fortuna, Smuggling Compartment, and Black Market.
Yeah.
And that was John's list. The guy that updated Tabletop Simulator for everybody. And Blade was playing Empire. He had 2
Yeah.
elite jet troopers, 1 group of super commandos. He had Gar Saxon, Del Miko, Imperial officer, extra armor, rule by fear, 2 officers, and temporary alliance and Zillow technique. But no Vader's finest on Del Miko in this list.
Yeah. And no Gar Saxon on the scumbags of this list.
That game was the one I got to watch live, and that was pretty insane because
Nice.
Blade started off round 2 with, and this was on Uskru. John had bunched all of his figures up against the door by the booth, and Blade started off with Call the Vanguard, fuel upgrade, and then overrun. And I was like, oh, like,
Jesus.
an orbital bombardment costs 4 points.
There's a bombardment here?
No,
Sorry,
he did overrun, and he dealt like 10 damage to amongst 5 figures. And I was like,
yeah. He
this is
basically
better than orbital
bombarded
bombardment.
for a 2-point
Yeah.
command card. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so yeah, we did see Cad Bane with Bosk there. He does benefit from, not Bosk, Cad Bane with Gar Saxon. He does benefit from Gar Saxon's airborne leadership.
And if you focus him, you can add a surge power token, spike his damage a little bit more. Yeah, he would definitely benefit from that.
I think we went through the list. I'm just going to look at the list that I've got here just quickly so we can see what people are playing, and then I think we'll call it there. So
I see that your Season 8 list does not include orbital bombardment.
does it not? No, it's at the top, isn't it?
No, you left that. It's all in it's the community's fault, as you said before.
Right, I'll just add it in here.
This card is the community's
Insert
fault.
row, orbital bombardment.
I see one other use of this of bombardment though, besides the game I played. Isaac versus Adam.
Oh yeah, what did he do?
It was a Krennic Scout Trooper list with an E-Web. Whoa. Krennic, Bombardment, Scout Trooper, E-Web. Okay, Death Trooper, ISB. I was like, where's the rest of your deployments? Overwatch, Zillow, and Rule by Fear. Interesting.
Yeah, Adam won that game with orbital bombardment, so I'll have to ask Isaac how that went.
Yeah.
It looks like he had it on Krennic.
And then this is another Super Commando list Isaac had.
Yeah, so Isaac had Sabine and Probe Droid instead of Boba in his list. Yeah, let's see what else other people are playing.
Sabine and Probe Droid.
So I mentioned the Yoda list. That was Mark. Talked about that game. Talked about my games against Sphinx. A lot of love for Rogue One. Seeing the Rogue One figures getting played together. But yeah, we've only got 9 games so far of data, so it's pretty much what we've got. So far, a lot of Super Commandos getting played, a lot of Bays, a lot of Del Miko, a lot of E-Webs.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised with Overwatch. You guys must have just been fed up with people not taking it. So you made it cost 0.
I have, the games I have seen it do not much. So, it's kind of worth its points. Although, no wait, I should mention, Isaac was talking about his game in our internal chat, and he said that his Gar Saxon got one-shotted by a E-Web playing, attacking with an Overwatch token. He like stepped on an Overwatch with Gar Saxon, and he died in one shot. And I was like, that seems very unlikely, but he's like, oh, he had a Krennic token, and I think he played Concentrated Fire. So.
Gar Saxon's not the person to step on Overwatch token.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if he had a block token either. That's something I've been surprised by. I keep hearing people say he's not squishy, and I'm like, well, did you use combat shield? And they're like, well, no, I didn't. He didn't have any block tokens. He didn't get a chance to make one yet. And I was like, okay, well, the extra armor exists for a reason. But I
Well, not everyone's gonna take that.
I do concede that I think after seeing him getting played more, combat shield is not quite as strong as I initially thought. I thought it would be like making him into a Boba Fett level defense. But I've noticed sometimes the evade just doesn't matter. Like in my game against Morgan, he just was rolling all hits. Like I was getting like so many evades from fuel upgrade and combat shield, and he was just like, okay, I rolled 6 damage pips. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So combat shield, I may have overvalued it a little bit. So you might see Gar Saxon get an update. But that's my only Overwatch story that I have right now.
Gotcha. I don't have any yet either.
Alright.
But alright. I think we've covered everything so far for a weekend.
Alright, well thanks everybody for watching. I hope you guys are having fun playing your Season 8 games, playtest games. Make sure to, if you do play a playtest game, and you don't play it on Vassal, make sure you go to the main website, which we're working on getting fixed. The security certificate expired, but make sure you go there and submit a survey detailing your list and who won and who lost, so we can get more data for our Season 8 testing. Alright.
Yeah, please do, because this game is a lot of fun.
Anything you want to plug before we go out?
Yep, as always, my YouTube, I do more streaming there, and I am actually going to be starting a Star Wars video game playthrough for May the 4th, which you might be able to catch. There's actually a community poll up right now to see what game it's going to be. I basically looked at Steam, picked all the video games that are on sale there, and said, okay, you community, tell me what I'm going to play. Except for the newest Jedi Survivor game. I was told that game is optimized horribly, and I doubt I could stream it and run it at the same time.
Yeah, that looks like poop.
But the first one is hopefully better. It's on that list. But I think Lego Star Wars is winning at the moment.
Yeah, I'm pissed. I can't even watch the new one as like a YouTube movie, because all the cutscenes have like pop-in and terrible frame rate, and like... I don't even want to play the game, and I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I put it as an option, but I when I was making the poll, I tried to add the caveat, like, yeah, we could do this one. I haven't played the first one yet. And then when someone told me, like, yeah, it's gonna be a bad time if they pick that one. It's not gonna run well. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll play the first one then, and maybe next year for May the 4th, it'll be better optimized with a few more updates.
All right. Well, with that, we will see you guys.
But that's it.
See you guys in the next one.
All right. Stay frosty, everyone.
All right. Send me your audio log or your audio file, and we'll get this up on Wednesday.